out of the mix in this matchup. And again, another one that's becoming more and more popular here in Europe after seeing masses of popularity over in Korea. Other ban was Kha'Zix coming out, another one that's risen to performance on the 4.3 patch.
So slow picks and bans here for Fnatic. I think the Kha'Zix ban is because Insects simply tore Fnatic apart at Intel Extreme Masters. They don't want to fall prey to that one again. On the same token, Fnatic played against and with Sivir multiple times at that event. So I think it's quite a smart ban from Roccat. What it does mean though is Caitlyn and Lucian are still open, and we've actually seen many teams in the past banning one or more of those champions against Roccat, targeting Celaver out.
Other bans coming in. Kassadin, final ban for Roccat against xPeke. You know, Kassadin, we've had questions about it. Obviously, we are on 4.3, so it's not the totally new Kassadin in this one, but certainly a little bit less popular, that's for sure. On the other side, Lulu, we talked about it in the pre-game show today, a master bully in lane and something that Fnatic don't want to deal with. Interestingly,
Fnatic are one of the only teams that don't run her in the mid lane. It's something that we've seen from Fnatic time and time again. It's sOAZ that runs it for their team, and we haven't seen Peke on that little Yordle. So removing it from the table, they simply do not want to deal with it at all.
However, first pick, not really surprised, as Renekton sneaking through here, so I'd expect that comes into the first round of the picks, and as it falls, it comes to Roccat as their favorite choice in the top lane here for Xaxus.
So the question is, where does Fnatic go from here? We've seen Renekton in the top lane being super dominant and super consistent over the course of the split, and something that sOAZ himself has played very, very well. The other sort of top priority top laners are still there. You've got Trundle still in the mix. You've got Shyvana if you want to go that route. We've even seen sOAZ running those AP tops like Gragas, like LeBlanc in the past. So there's a lot of options for Fnatic. I almost wonder if a Lucian Thresh might not be the safe route to go. It's something that we see from these teams many, many times.
Well, right now they are hovering over the Lucian. That'll be locked in. But Gragas will be the choice here for Fnatic. xPeke has shown us many a time how strong he can be on this Gragas. That leaves, of course, the likes of Ziggs open, to be honest, which it really wouldn't surprise me to see Overpow going for in that mid lane over the other side. But the AD carry at least taken away there from Celaver.
Yeah, so Celaver's most likely going to default to Caitlyn. It's what we've seen him doing in the past. He did try Varus a couple times in Super Week, was not particularly impressed by it. What we have also seen from both Jankos and Cyanide is a trend towards the Pantheon, the Evelynn, and the Wukong as far as the junglers are concerned. What I like about the Gragas lock-in here for Fnatic is that Peke played it an immense amount of times at IEM, which is just last weekend. He had some very good performances on it. But we also know it could go to sOAZ. So there's always that little bit of doubt in the mind of where are they actually going to stick that champion and who's going to get their hands on it at the end of the day.
What will Roccat here lock in for their second and third choices? Looks like we're going to be seeing Jankos actually bringing the Lee Sin into the fold of this one. A champion which, you know, is not up there with his most played champions, but he has had some success on that one as well. You think back to the good win against Alliance, and earlier on even in the season where they took down Alliance the first time around. This time against Fnatic, we also see Thresh taken away, not allowing them to have that Thresh Lucian lane that we talked about earlier.
So what I like about the Lee Sin is it fits Rockat's playstyle. It fits Jankos' tendency to early ganking champions, to getting in the face of Fnatic and trying to disrupt them. Vander on Thresh, for the first 5 weeks of the split, was the best Thresh player. He landed multiple hooks, he was always saving his teammates. But you've also got to be honest and call him out. The last 3 weeks of games, he has not been on the same level. He hasn't been able to find those picks. He hasn't necessarily been able to sway the tempo of a game with that champion. So we'll see if Vander's maybe got some confidence back after heading to Poland, having some fan meet and greets, and a little bit of time off.
So we did see Sivir banned earlier on for, you know, the utility that she brings in there as well, you know, being an AD carry, a big force in the side. They've picked up a Karma support, which can offer that whole big speed up for your entire team. Also taking Pantheon here in the jungle for Cyanide.
So this is only the 4th player in the LCS to pick up Karma. We've seen Mixer, J-Ree, and Nif running Karma support in the European LCS, and now it's going to be YellOwStaR getting his hands on the pick. What we did see from KT Rolls to Bullets at IEM was when they didn't have Sivir, they replaced her with Karma, using that big AoE speed boost from her Mantra and Mantra and E, if I remember correctly, and just gives that team basically a mini Talisman of Ascension. It's great for engage, it's great for disengage, and knowing how safe Rekkles and YellOwStaR do tend to play in the lane, I think it'll work out quite nicely.
Well, Roccat now on their final 2 picks, and AD carry is going to be Caitlyn. So Caitlyn Thresh that Roccat have now in the lane, and also going to be picking up Yasuo here to go in that mid lane up against Peke's Gragas.
So the thing that I don't necessarily like about this pick is there's a limited number of knockups. Yes, Thresh has got a knockup. You've also got the kickback from Lee Sin, but what worked for the Chinese teams was comboing a Shyvana knockup into a multi-man last breath from Yasuo. We'll see how Roccat plays that one out. As far as the mid lane matchup goes, Yasuo against Gragas, as long as Overpow times his wind walls perfectly or properly, you can mitigate all of the bursts from Gragas. You actually have kill potential on Gragas because you can avoid the explosive costs. You can mitigate them, put that wind wall up, and make sure that Peke has no kill potential on you.
Oh, Fnatic going to lock in this Shen. It's a champion which sOAZ was very vocal about disliking the playstyle of. In the end, though, they switched last second in towards Shyvana. So it's Shyvana versus Renekton top lane. I feel like we've talked about this one a few times, a few hundred times, it feels like almost by now at this stage of the season.
So the one thing that we are seeing about this matchup is that there's a ticking time bomb on Rockat's side. We once again see an all-physical composition here as far as the damage is concerned. And if Roccat don't get themselves an early gold lead and an early advantage in the game, Fnatic's well-rounded composition is going to outscale them. You've got magic damage from Gragas and from Karma, depending on YellOwStaR is going to build up. And thanks to the strong engage and disengage of both Gragas and Karma, I actually feel like in the big 5v5s, there's a very strong advantage here for Fnatic. So we need to see Roccat pulling ahead and far ahead very early on.
Well, we do have that Renekton in the top lane that's going to have the advantage, and you have to say, we talked about it in the pregame, Jankos is an early game jungler that loves to get involved, and if they don't have that kind of pressure that he's had earlier on in the season where Roccat were doing so amazingly well, they're going to struggle.
Yeah, I completely agree. Thanks to the picks and bans that Roccat does have right now, I think the laning phase is in their favor. I think they've got a lot of things they can work with. But it always matters, you know, the theoretical composition versus the in-game decision-making. That's where you've got to make it work, and we'll see if Roccat can do it.
Well, with the picks and bans behind us, let's take a look at who you guys think has the edge in this game. According to the vote, 61% of you have gone to Fnatic, a decent amount considering where both teams are right now. Also like to remind you guys that you can get tickets and join us here in Cologne and watch these games live. Just head over to LOLesports.com and click on tickets for all the details.
Yeah, I definitely think the performance last weekend is playing into everybody's mind. You don't make it to the grand final of the Intel Extreme Masters World Championship unless you're doing something right.
Yeah.
And Fnatic did. They had mistakes, they had problems that they need to work on, but at the end of the day, they still delivered.
So here we go then, in-game, it's Fnatic versus Roccat. We will be able to pick this one up a very much, it was a top of the table clash, we can definitely say that when we look back at the previous ones. Right now though, it's between two teams that are definitely not stable in terms of results right now.
No, that's definitely the case. And this is 2 of only 4 teams in the European LCS that have sat in that first place position. And we'll have to see how this works out in their favor. I mean, right now, Fnatic, they have fallen from glory. They had a massive window, this massive buffer of safety, and now, you know, if they continue losing, they actually run the risk of being placed in 6th position and getting relegated into, you know, the playoff bracket.
Still so many games to go, and because the table's so close, it's hard to even talk about those final positions by now because there are still so many different outcomes here in the European LCS. Well, we saw how that went in the end of Season 3 in the summer split, where we had to play tiebreaker games at the end of it to actually figure out who was going through and who was going to the playoffs and promotion.
I'm racking my brain right now. Was it 8 extra games that we had to play? Or 6 extra games, I think, at the end of the Super Day. It was 6 games already. It was an incredibly long day. And the way things are looking right now, we've got the possibility, but a lot of these head-to-heads are actually sitting 3-0 in favor of one team. So maybe that head-to-head tiebreaker rule could shorten the last few days of our Super Week, I think.
Well, the more games, the merrier from my side. I'll put that out there now. Roccat here, we can see, are initiating a lane swap. It looks like they want Celaver and Vander to go in this top lane up against sOAZ, and they're going to be seeing Renekton coming down into the bottom lane, where YellOwStaR and Rekkles will be waiting for them.
So I wonder what the thinking is behind this decision, whether or not they're just trying to control the jungle path of Cyanide, or whether they were anticipating a lane swap from Fnatic. Because Renekton into Shyvana is a matchup that Renekton wins. sOAZ already in a little bit of trouble.
Yeah, a bit of a face check here going on. He may just be forced to flash. Ignite is going to be used. There's a lot of damage coming in. Peacemaker comes down. Flash not used there by sOAZ. He played it very, very patiently. Did manage to get away, but that means that he's getting no farm for these first couple of minutes.
So sOAZ also did not pick up his trinket right at the beginning of the gate, tried to make it out of the base as quickly as possible. It doesn't even look like he's picked up another one this time around, so maybe foregoing trinkets this game. We'll have to see how long it takes him to get that. But, as we said, Renekton into Shyvana is a matchup that Xaxus should be winning. So if Roccat have done this lane swap, it was either in anticipation of Fnatic swapping, which didn't happen, or because they want to try and control maybe the red buff of Fnatic or something similar. We'll see how Jankos paths and tries to work the map.
That's the great thing about this week, that some teams have had that break. As you mentioned, Roccat were actually in Katowice. They're doing some more promotional style stuff with the fans over there in Poland, but I'm assuming that they've had a bit more time in terms of preparation for this week, other than Fnatic, who obviously had a long schedule in front of them and got through to that grand finals. We do see Xaxus there just doing himself. The Golem's going to go decently low from that, but will actually be headed home here in just a second. Level 2. Safe. No need to be worried about that one, Roccat fans.
No, what I really like about Xaxus doing that, he's got himself CS already. He's got a level advantage over sOAZ. And if you notice Rekkles and YellOwStaR on this bottom lane, they're not shoving the wave. They're not actually pushing that wave super hard. xPeke's in a little bit of trouble. Here comes Jankos.
Jankos coming in there, flashes away from the Q and the knock-up out of Overpow. Perfectly timed there by xPeke, showing how cool he is in these kind of scenarios.
So at this point in time, the flash is down. So if Overpow and Jankos repeat that in the next couple of minutes, there is first blood potential. We do see Jankos now moving to this bottom lane to try to support Xaxus. And the point I was trying to make earlier, Celaver and Vander are shoving that top wave against sOAZ. They got sOAZ out of the lane, and they're trying to put some pressure. They've caught him!
Oh, coming in onto sOAZ, and they got the damage here though. No, sorry, there is that flash obviously for sOAZ because he didn't use it at level 1 after face checking that bush. Meanwhile, Cyanide is coming around to try and help out on that top tower.
So at this point in time, this is the advantage Roccat have gained for themselves. They've got 50% of Fnatic's top tower already dropped in HP. In the bottom lane, we'll see in a second as Rekkles and YellOwStaR get onto the Roccat tower, but this is Poke in the mid lane. Overpow playing very aggressive.
Actually sliding through the minions there, I think taking a bit more damage than he would have hoped for from that one. And Peck is like, okay, you're sliding around, I'm just going to throw a couple of auto attacks your way and we'll be good. But Overpow does have that slight experience level over xPeke plus the CS lead here. That'll only be just a few, but this turret is definitely not going to be up there for long. We can see that Roccat not relenting any pressure on that side of the map.
I really like the advantage Roccat have given themselves. We talked about how the early game and the laning was going to be so important for Rockat's all physical composition. They've already got a noticeable more amount of HP off that top tower. If Jankos and Xaxus can defend the bottom tower and allow Celaver to secure this top one, then rotate, it's immediate gold and map advantage to Roccat.
What definitely could be the final push onto this tower is well underway. A couple of minions actually in there still from that one, and as the last minion dies, Celaver gets the last hit on it, and that will be the first turret of the game going in favor of Roccat.
So very, very well played. They've got a small gold advantage, and now we should be expecting Roccat to actually lane swap. I think Xaxus should be going to the top lane. He's already got a small lead over sOAZ and CS, but he's actually behind on XP, thanks to being a little bit late to that lane. So we'll see if this Renekton Shyvana matchup still plays in Xaxus' favor, even though he is a little bit down on the experience bar.
And funnily enough, when we compare that whole 2v1, if you look at the AD carries, Celaver actually behind by quite the margin at this point. 14 CS that Rekkles has in his advantage, and we said it earlier on that Rekkles is always solid when it comes to the farming game. Even when Fnatic as a team start to fall behind, you always see him up there in terms of the CS numbers. But now it's going to be that 2v2. We'll see if Fnatic actually try and change things around, and with a Shyvana recall and the duo recall in there on your minimap, it looks like they may see that switch again.
We'll have to see. I wonder if that isn't just an opportune recall because neither of those laners had gone back in a moment or two. You do see that it does look like they're going to be going to the straight, 2v2 matchups. And I think the CS lead that Rekkles has gained is more because of Celaver and Vander's attempt to force sOAZ out of lane and focus the tower down. So they've lost CS by trying to get the global objective. The one thing I do want to highlight, a moment or two ago, we actually seen Overpow being super cheeky on Yasuo and denying farm from Peke by windwalling his barrel and just preventing him getting those couple of CS. So it's just showing some good play on Yasuo in this mid lane.
Both of those mid laners though now up at level 6, so we'll see if they get called into action. Currently Overpow is headed towards the top side of the Fnatic jungle. Jankos is already in there, and that's because that red buff was just about to spawn in, is now on the map. sOAZ is there on the top side. We've got Cyanide, who's not quite level 6 at this point, so he has no man drop if he needs to come down, but he will simply walk in there. sOAZ coming from around the side, and actually they left Jankos alone. The barrel from Peke actually will knock him back, but the flash from Jankos straight over the wall keeps him safe.
That was half a second away from Jankos being dead to getting away. Thanks to an early flash from Jankos, the barrel from Peke actually knocked him further to safety. So good reactive play, but Jankos maybe shouldn't have been there to begin with. He had no support from Xaxus. Overpow didn't appear to make any intentions to leave that mid lane, and it just meant that he basically got caught out of position and blew his own flash.
I have to give you some news in terms of trinkets. sOAZ now does in fact realize that he doesn't have a trinket. I assume he came in when he was like, I'm just going to put a ward down. Oh wait, I don't have a trinket. I should probably fix that one. Has got himself a trinket in there now, so that's all good. However, he is behind on the CS. That was already the case earlier on. We expect it in that 1v1 matchup against the Renekton anyway. We still await a first blood at this point. 8.5 minutes in there. Roccat picking up that early advantage and 1,000 gold lead by now, simply by taking down that first turret of the game in the top lane.
Yeah, and you can also see that since Xaxus has returned to the lane, he is still controlling sOAZ. He's kept that small CS advantage, and he seems to be applying some pressure to sOAZ as Shyvana. We'll see how that matchup continues to play out as both of them now have their ultimates. And there is kill potential if Jankos or Cyanide decide to roam. Cyanide is level 6 with Grand Skyfall, so there's also kill potential there if he jumps into a lane. We tend to see Cyanide ganking either mid lane with his ultimate coming in behind the opponent, or if his dual lane is playing defensive, coming in behind the AD carry and support. But it doesn't look like Celaver and Vander are really hard pushing that bottom lane, so Cyanide's targets might be in the mid lane.
Yeah, I think that's always the danger, knowing that the Pantheon is on the map, that if you push too far, you kind of freeze yourself out of that one. Meanwhile, Blue Buff's coming in there. Peke going to be taking that one. He is still 20 CS behind, having to go that Seeker's Arm Guard and double door and ring combo to keep himself early safe here, because we already have the workings of that Static Shiv in for Overpow.
Yeah, core itemization on Yasuo. Static Shiv into your Infinity Edge, and as long as you've got that 10% additional crit from your Runes of Mastery, you get 100% built up. The one thing that I do want to highlight about Overpow's play is just the fact that he's still got a CS lead on Gragas, who is one of the best farming champions in the game, and it's because of the way Overpow is using that wind wall to interrupt and disrupt Peke's gameplay. It means Peke is going to be a little bit delayed hitting a power spike, because Peke is also going for the Seeker's Arm Guard first, working his way towards an Hourglass. So that massive burst that you come to expect from Gragas will be a little bit later in this game.
So where is that first kill going to come down? Cyanide had just wandered in towards the bottom side of the map, but there was a ward in the tri-bush, which Roccat realized actually did use the sweeping lens currently on Vander to search that one out and make sure that they could try and sneak that Lee Sin back in there to force some action on that bottom side of the map. But we've already seen pink wards going down around the Dragon area, which could indicate that Fnatic were thinking about that one. No, they just want to keep the control of that area of the map.
If Celaver and Vander keep pushing up that lane the way that they are right now, I think First Blood could come in that bottom lane. Cyanide really likes to jump in behind his opponent's AD carry and support and give Rekkles and YellOwStaR some kill potential. Overpow almost caught up. Peke was just waiting out of sight. The one thing that Fnatic can also do with their combo of Pantheon, Karma, and Lucian is tower dive pretty effectively. You've got a shield from Karma, a movement speed increase, and Pantheon can block turret shots. So if they wanted to go underneath the turret, they could go in. Here's the man drop on Jankos.
Coming straight in towards that Wraith camp, and Jankos just going to head straight off towards that ward, but they're chasing him down here. sOAZ now getting involved. From Cyanide secures first blood here for Fnatic.
Very well played. That was just reactive play from Fnatic. The moment they realized Jankos was in their jungle, they jumped on the opportunity. Jankos, even though there was some decent vision, you can't really prepare for a Grand Skyfall. It lands on your head all of a sudden Pantheon comes out of nowhere. What I liked was how quickly sOAZ responded. He was there the moment Jankos was revealed, and it was a very well-coordinated gank from Fnatic. It does open them up to secure the first dragon as well. Doesn't look like anyone from Rockat's going to contest this.
Now, Vander just off to the side here. He's going to throw a ward down, but that will only give them vision and at least the timer on that dragon for the next time that it does come into the game. That puts Fnatic ahead now in the gold with that single kill, with the first dragon of the game as well. As we do see YellOwStaR after that one, just coming up to this mid lane with Rekkles as well. So looking like they want to put a 2v1 against Yasuo, whose CS lead, I wouldn't say continue to grow, but stuck around the similar good lead that he's had over Peke so far.
Yeah, Yasuo is really sort of keeping Peke in line, is I think the best way to highlight that fact. Peke roaming down to the bottom lane, maybe to not face the static Shiv Yasuo, because there is, as we said, that kill potential. Alternatively, it could also be to deny Overpow. If you stick both Karma and Rekkles and Karma and Lucian in the mid lane, it's much more difficult to wind wall everything that gets thrown at you. The one thing we do need to just keep reminding everybody about is that Rockat's team composition needs to be ahead by a significant amount in gold in order to win straight up 5v5s. If, however, they do get a good wombo combo, a Dragon's Rage that knocks up 3 or 4 people into a good last breath from Yasuo, that could be a determining factor in picking up kills.
Oh, right now we see Overpow going in on towards Peke. He'll be having flashbacks of critical strikes coming his way from the Intel Extreme Master. Katowice is done well here. Actually will get the kill onto Overpow. A good bit of kiting around the tower. Did go down though in the same time.
Traded 1 for 1. If Peke did not flash that knockup from the Steel Tempest of Overpow, Overpow would have been able to get that kill and make it out with his life. But some good tap dancing shoes there from Peke allows him to survive, and that was the kill potential we were talking about. The moment that static Shiv was built up, Overpow had the damage to solo Peke, even though Peke has that additional armor from that Seeker's Arm Guard. So well played by Overpow to get the kill, but even better played by Peke to get a reply.
And speaking of Peke, look at that CS now, bang, even almost. So he's really come back nicely in that little encounter. We see a lot of wards down on this bottom side of the map. Dragon, of course, was already taken away by Fnatic, and Rekkles and YellOwStaR now moving in on towards Fnatic's possible first turret of the game. YellOwStaR got a lot of zoning potential there, throwing out that damage towards Celaver and Vander. We do have Jankos coming around. Fnatic need to be careful here. That turret is a very juicy target for them, but wisely they do back away.
Yeah, so they did. What we did see though was Cyanide is moving towards that Tribush. He has his ultimate available, so if a fight were to break out, Cyanide could have actually jumped in there and potentially helped out. I want to keep my eye on the support item that YellOwStar's picked up. He's got the Frost Fang right now, so it is the upgrade to that Spell Thief's Edge. And what we've seen from most of the international supports elsewhere in the world is they'll upgrade it once, sell it in favor of the coin later in the game, just because of the strength of that Talisman of Ascension. But because you're Karma and you've got a built-in speed boost, maybe YellOwStar feels that he doesn't need to go that route, and he can go for the additional slow from that Frost Queen's claim, if memory serves.
On the other front, in terms of items, Morella Nomicon picked up by xPeke, of course, was forced to go in there to that Seeker's Arm Guard, first of all, trying to deal with Yasuo in that early game. Speaking of Yasuo, he does have a Vamp Scepter now added into that static Shiv, so should be feeling a little bit more confident about sticking around in these lanes. And while we're on the front of the Vamp Scepter, Bloodthirster was now completed by both AD carries.
Yeah, so they're going to be stacking those ones up. I think as both of these teams are playing up, Fnatic should be fairly happy with this early game. Even though they are a tower down, they were able to get the first dragon of the game, so that's where the gold is evened out. In addition, the CS disparity from earlier on is now actually growing in favor of Fnatic. sOAZ on Shyvana is now going to be able to deal with Xaxus on Renekton, so he's ahead in CS. Peke has evened up that CS gap behind Overpow, and Rekkles is still holding on to his big lead. We did see Fnatic grabbing themselves that tower in the bottom lane. I think that is Grind Skyfall now in the mid lane.
Well, Grand is named, but Grand it sadly wasn't there for Cyanide. Comes in and Overpow's like, nah, I'm not having any of that one. Just takes a couple of steps back off towards his turret, and Cyanide realizing that that's not going to have any effect in that mid lane whatsoever, he goes back off into the jungle to the Wraiths.
It's such a difficult situation as well, because against other mid laners, Fnatic, they could have used Gragas to body slam forward and then explosive cast to knock the mid laner into the Pantheon ultimate. But Yasuo's just going to sit there and say, Wind Wall, no, do not want, get rid of that cast. So we do see now Sonic Wave does land on Rekkles. Jankos has gone in.
Vander going in there as well. They managed to let the hook on towards Rekkles. There's the combo going down. Rekkles surviving there by the shields, and now the focus comes on towards Overpow. He takes the lantern away. Jankos will fall though. It's Peke that picks up that one. Look how low that entire Roccat team is.
That was a phenomenal hook from Vander, but it didn't manage to get the kill. We see everybody getting away incredibly low, and Jankos just getting caught out by the members of Fnatic. He was the only victim. It does allow Fnatic to grab themselves another tower to their name, and with Dragon spawning in a minute, they should be able to get a lot of vision control for the next objective.
And they're actually going to be going home from this one. Let's take another look at that one. Starting out with a dive in from Jankos and the hook from Vander.
So this was a really good kick. Vander actually realized the direction that Rekkles was being knocked. The one thing you have to notice though is Overpow only caught Rekkles with his ultimate. Nobody else was knocked in the air, and nobody else took damage from that last breath. So Overpow dives in. It wasn't even enough damage to really burn through the Shield of Karma and barrier on Rekkles. Rekkles gets out with about, a third of his life, and the damage from Fnatic was able to secure them that kill. So decent attempt, but they needed to hit more people in the air and get more people with that last breath.
Close little fight there coming in. We did see that turret taking all the damage, and now it's all about Dragon, because Fnatic took out the first one of the game. Roccat trying to get in there, a barrel roll through onto Vander as he keeps putting those wards down, and that Dragon is going to be well and truly started. But watch Jankos here. He stood on the backside. Let's see if he can land a Q. That goes in, lands onto Pantheon here, and we can see that Fnatic slowing down on the damage, and there they do finally finish it off. The smite from Cyanide comes in. sOAZ was just zoning the rest of the team away on that top side. Solid pickup by Fnatic.
Yeah, and coordinated as well. They were waiting out the time of that Sonic Wave. You actually seen Peke putting a barrel down, and you could see everyone Fnatic just sort of stalling for a brief second so they could combine all of their bursts together. They grabbed the Dragon fairly safely, and now they're grouped, much better grouped in the middle. They've gone on the turret, but it doesn't look like Roccat can make anything of that engage. Xaxus was looking for a stun, he couldn't find it.
Edging forward from that one, and it would have actually been a perfect time to get that one started. Note Rekkles' position there, already pushed up towards that top lane. Roccat have noted his position and are saying, well, you are completely out of way of this one. We're going to reply here, taking our second turret of your game. The outer mid lane turret is going to go in favor of Roccat. The top lane, I think, will be taken down by Rekkles on Lucian. And we'll see that in a second. There we go. So that turret is going to be taken down. So that keeps Fnatic 3-2 up, a trade of turrets.
Yeah, trading turrets, but I think a little bit of a mistake by Fnatic. They weren't grouped tight enough, and because they had to run through the forest, they needed to run the long route across the river, past the Wraith camp, to get in position to defend that middle lane. So it does mean that Roccat at least open up the blue buff area of the map. Now Cyanide is going to man drop into this top lane. They're going for another turret.
Yeah, they need no reaction here whatsoever from Roccat. That's 3 big sources of damage onto this turret. That is going to go down. That puts Fnatic 4-2 up. No one from Roccat could come through the jungle. They had no vision of that one. Karma had come across as well. Peke was down in the bottom lane, making sure that that wasn't pushed up and they lose a turret on that front. Overall, great strategic play and good calls from Fnatic.
Yeah, completely. And you have to see that, it's one of these chess games. Roccat can force Fnatic away, so they leave the mid lane. Roccat say, we can get mid tower. You see Rekkles continue to push the top tower, and Fnatic respond by saying, look, get Shyvana in there and Pantheon on that top inner turret, and we grab ourselves the 4th turret of the game and have even more control of the map. The whole top half of the jungle for Roccat is completely open and exposed to Fnatic. Now Overpow wants the tower, but he's going to be jumping on Peke. Here comes Jankos as well.
Oh, is this... Well, I was going to say a bait, but sOAZ is far too far away from this one. Peke goes down. I think as he threw that barrel in there, he realized, okay, that didn't quite have the damage I was hoping for, and that is a kill back for Overpow. He's now 2-1-0, got himself that pickaxe in since the last time I talked about his build.
That is very important for Overpow to get a little bit further ahead. He needs to get items that he can potentially split push. One of the things that Yasuo does incredibly well is duel 1v1s in those sort of solo long lane positions, and because Roccat are behind on gold, on a composition they needed to be ahead, and because they don't do very well in siege situations, their wave clear is not necessarily the strongest, and Gragas and Karma can just poke them out under a tower. Roccat never want to be sitting underneath their tower trying to fend off Fnatic. Their composition does not work in that regard. So vision and finding picks is what Roccat need to do to get themselves back in this game.
You see Yasuo down on that bottom lane. Actually, sOAZ was there as well. Big tanky sOAZ, who has that Sunfire cape and probably has the money to finish off his Randuin's Omen at this stage of it all as well. He's decided, you know what, I'm going to go up towards the mid lane because there's not much doing for me there. I don't want to go up, even though I am quite tanky, against that Yasuo at this point, who could throw a few crazy crits my way and catch me off guard completely. Fnatic actually pushing on both the mid and bottom lane out now, just trying to keep that pressure. And as you said, as soon as one lane goes a little bit too far in, that's where they're going to be at their strongest, throwing the barrels down constantly under the turrets. Roccat will have to fight them all back off at that point.
I think with the amount of armor that sOAZ has right now, he should actually be able to deal with Overpow until Overpow gets more items. Vander, you don't want this fight. No one else from Roccat can support. He's in trouble.
He's picked up the hook, but I'm not sure, as you said, that's really what he wants. There's a slow coming down. Celaver actually comes across the side. Vander was forced to flash away from that one. Meanwhile, Jankos is coming in. He's landed the Q on towards Rekkles. Are they going to follow through? Ace in the hole was put down, but that was blocked nicely by Cyanide.
Roccat reacting a little bit slowly to that hook. There was nobody in range to jump in there, and you actually see Jankos thinking about going in. He has already once gone in on Rekkles to do that sort of insect-type play, knocking somebody into the dangers area of your map. Now Jankos clearing out a pink ward. He's got caught by Rekkles and YellOwStaR. Here's a man drop. Cancelled.
Cancelling that one out, and I think Cyanide realized, okay, that might be a little bit too deep there. We don't really have the vision that far down on the map. Let's not get caught out from any of that one. However, Fnatic have pushed 3 men, make that 4 now over towards his bottom turret. But we can see that Roccat actually positioned. Jankos has to safeguard away, but the rest of Roccat coming in. It's all about the hook. Misses from Vander, they can't follow up.
Yeah, Jankos misplayed that one a little bit, ends up knocking YellOwStaR basically to safety. He did the ward dash and then tried to get a Dragon's Rage kick, did not send Karma the direction he wanted to. Now Fnatic are quite smart. With 1 minute before Dragon respawning, they've got a lot of vision in the red buff area of Rockat's jungle. And because they're sieging this bottom tower, knowing Rockat's composition doesn't necessarily do too great if Fnatic continue a siege. Roccat had pushed it out, and Fnatic had backed away. I thought they were going to try and siege up the tower and roll back to Dragon, but it doesn't look like that's the call. Playing this one a little safe.
Yeah, better safe than sorry. We say that all the time here as we see those recalls coming in. Actually, Rekkles, I didn't see, has got his Phantom Dancer already done, and I'm assuming has, okay, 600 gold to spend. We also saw a few other pickups coming in from that one as well. Zhonya's Hourglass, for example, done for Peke, along with another blasting wand. That Randuin's Omen is finished for sOAZ as they start to come back out into the lanes.
So there's a lot of damage and a lot of items on the side of Fnatic. Thanks to them spending the money, they're going to have to retake control of the Dragon Pit area. You can see with Roccat in the river already, they've actually got a slightly stronger starting position. They're going to jump on Celaver.
Here comes the man drop. Can they actually get in there? Cyanide a little bit far through as the hook does land onto Cyanide. He flashes away. Xaxus trying to get in the front of him, but he's all alone from this one. Is he going to get off? Another barrel comes in. Jankos now at the front. There's a dragon from sOAZ. Roccat all down to about half. There's a good Randuin slow. Onto 3 of them. Peke is chasing Jankos down. He tried to get up towards the golems. He flashes instead there as the golems weren't available. The ignite won't be enough, but Peke does flash in there to secure the kill.
Flash body slam to grab the kill, and another moment where Fnatic do not hesitate. They pull the trigger with the Grand Skyfall. Cyanide picking the battle with Celaver, and even though Celaver actually got away, he charged his 90 caliber net and actually caught Pantheon the millisecond he landed. It was enough. Now Celaver's dead.
Yeah, Celaver is going to be dead here. There's no way you're getting away from that one. The dragon sticks to him. YellOwStaR, constant slows coming in his way. And that's just an unfortunate case of being in the wrong place at the wrong time. You also should probably add with no vision while you're doing that.
Yeah, and look at Fnatic. They've left Rekkles to basically push the side lanes. About 10 minutes ago, he was pushing the top lane. Now he's pushing the middle lane alone. And the rest of Fnatic, they were sieging that bottom tower, at least pushing the wave into it. As it stands, Fnatic have got such a nice safety cushion. They've got a gold and an item lead. And because they're... No, didn't get it. And because they've got a comp that is actually stronger than Rockets in this portion of the game, in the sieging time frame, that lead is actually compounded even further.
So a couple more items being picked up there. YellOwStaR gets himself the Mikhail's Crucible so they can cleanse off something that Roccat throw their way. Probably the hook that's been something really crucial to getting things started from Rockat's front, and another Randuin's Omen coming in, this time for Cyanide.
Yeah, remember this is an all-physical team from Roccat. And we talked about in picks and bans, and we seen it earlier today. When you run an all-physical composition, the moment your opposition grabs enough armor to not be worried, with very little armor penetration from anybody on Rockat's side, it just becomes so much more difficult to get through that effective health. I mean, as far as armor pen is concerned, not a single member of the Roccat squad has any of it. You know, there's potentially going to be Lost Whispers picked up soon, but it's too late because they're already 7,000 gold down. and they've got to get through a Gragas explosive cast, and they've got to run through all of the slows of Karma. It's a difficult position for Roccat to be in.
And Peke obviously moving that Seeker's arm guard earlier to the Zhonya's Hourglass, which makes him all the more difficult to take down. He can afford to be belly slamming right in the middle of them and then spreading them out with that explosive cast. Meanwhile, we do see Fnatic getting some wards down by the Baron. Roccat have one right in front of that as well, so they actually have full vision of what is or isn't going on at this point in time, factually, around the Baron area.
So what you are going to see is Overpow and Yasuo trying to control these side lanes for most of the rest of the game. It's actually something we've seen from Froggen a few weeks back, where he gets his items and he's able to split push. He's jumped on Peke.
There's the knock-up and the ultimate. Is Peke going to be able to get away from this? Doesn't use the Zhonya's instead. He knocks him back with the ultimate. Overpow dashes in there as well just to scare Peke off from that. And that's going to allow Overpow to actually keep pushing this bottom lane, or if you felt safe enough, didn't know where the rest of the Fnatic team was.
Yeah, but at what cost? The rest of Fnatic are now starting to group up on the inhibitor turret. sOAZ is so tanky and so strong right now. He's not even afraid of multiple members of Roccat. The rest of the Fnatic team are getting more wards and more vision in the blue buff area, and it's really just going to be, you know, a crapshoot for Fnatic. Where do they want to go? Which tower do they want? Because they've got all the tools to take it down.
Last Whisper added in for Rekkles as well. So from what armor that they've got stacked up here, Roccat will be chewed through by Rekkles on Lucian. Meanwhile, Fnatic have started to back away. Is still that Roccat ward there. They need to scan that one out. They've got 3 sweeping lenses. One of them was active and available off cooldown. They've actually scanned the middle of the Baron pit and missed the ward that's outside.
Yeah, stroke of luck there for Roccat, and not having their vision denied to them. You can see the rest of the members of Fnatic are peeling back to the Baron, so Roccat are going to be aware of this, but look at the positioning from Roccat. It's going to be so difficult for them to even clear the gap with sOAZ running interference. The only member that's going to get there in time is going to be Xaxus. We'll have to see how Fnatic do it. They may just peel and fight.
Karma's so strong in this scenario as well, able to zone people out there. We see the ace in the hole coming through, and YellOwStaR will block that one out, and actually that's going to force them off. There's a mix hook. Here comes the man drop as well. Vander dropping low already. Where's Cyanide going to go? Xaxus at the back is the one that gets stunned up in the end. A lot of damage to him. No kill just yet, but that might come down towards Jankos, but here's Overpow dashing straight through. He's got 1 kill. The wind wall goes down, but Rekkles will chase him to finish that off. It's currently a 1-for-1. Everyone trying to run away from this one, but sOAZ continues to chase over towards Celaver. Will they back away? Will they go back to Baron? It looks like they're too low to risk it.
That was the fight that Roccat needed 10 or 15 minutes ago. That was a decent last breath that caught up both Rekkles and YellOwStaR. But unfortunately, because Xaxus was forced out of the fight so early on, he wasn't running interference for Fnatic. He wasn't keeping them focused on him, which meant the moment Overpow dove in, he just got shut down. This is the replay that I want to talk about. When you see Overpow getting in range, keep an eye how both Rekkles and YellOwStaR get knocked out. And Xaxus, he's already, lost a half of his life. He just gets melted by the members of Fnatic. Xaxus is running away. And look at that, Jankos solo in the team. Xaxus was solo in the team. Now Overpow, he's solo in the team. Because Roccat were not grouped together, it just allowed Fnatic to focus the targets individually, get them low, and get them out of the fight.
Could have been a lot worse there. You saw Jankos kind of running around in mini circles in the middle of it, and as he realized he was going to get leashed up and stunned by YellOwStaR, he actually just kicked the closest person. That allowed them to get in there, and I think they can be almost grateful that that didn't go even worse for them in the long run. But kill's a kill at this point in the game, and Roccat will take whatever they can get their hands on. We do have Dragon coming up in 20 seconds. I wonder if Roccat are going to be thinking about going for that.
They have to try and steal it. I really don't know if Roccat can actually pull off a team fight at this point. I mean, 7,000 gold lead, and knowing all of the power that Fnatic has in the pit, Roccat would need to get a 3 or a 4-man knockup and last breath in order for that to work. You see Fnatic, they are here on the second. Barrel is even thrown out already. So the moment this Dragon spawns, it's going to get melted. And as we thought, Roccat just, they're too far behind to really risk giving up more kills, because if Roccat did and lost a fight, it would just give Fnatic a Baron.
Brilliant Dragon control this game so far by Fnatic. 4 out of 4 that have been spawned on the map Fnatic have taken, and that gives them a very, very healthy lead in this one. Meanwhile, they're starting to move up towards the Baron area. In fact, we're going to see the man drop coming in. Only one can take the lantern. That will be Xaxus. Jankos basically shielded up an entire damage that the Cologne could throw his way. They forced them away though. That's going to give Fnatic a bit of time to weed out the wards that Roccat put down, and play some of their own.
Yeah, and very importantly, Cyanide actually cancelled the Grand Skyfall as well, so it will be available to him the next time he wants to throw it down. Fnatic could decide to tower dive with the strength of sOAZ and knowing that Cyanide could just force them out. Just going to siege it down. sOAZ in a little bit of trouble, and Jankos doesn't connect with the Sonic Wave, so again, nothing really comes of it. And you see how Roccat are not, they're not sitting under the tower, they're not trying to wave clear and just stall the game out because their comp doesn't do well in those situations. They're trying to find a flank, trying to find a way in to find a pick.
Yeah, we saw how much damage Karma does there to Celaver, and that's just the support after all. If Gragas lands a big barrel in there, you can kiss him goodbye if the combo does land for Fnatic. Meanwhile, blue buff is going to be up here. We are going to see the man drop coming in, and once again cancelled actually by Cyanide as he realized that was already gone. Yeah,
so Cyanide not wasting his ultimates this time around. I think Fnatic maybe looking for some confidence. They haven't actually had an extended siege at all. I mean, if you go all the way back to about 2 dragons ago where Fnatic were pushing the bottom tower, I thought they were going to use their comp to sit and just throw barrels and Karma poke out. Doesn't look like the case. We see Jankos going in. He's caught Rekkles.
Oh, the kick's surely going to come down. There we go. And there is Overpow to finish things off. That's the first kill here for Roccat. Can they get any more? YellOwStaR going to take a big hit. The Q had already connected from Jankos. Good counter barrels here from xPeke. And Overpow still chasing in. There's the poke back. And there is the push forward. Cyanide going low. Celaver gets himself that one. That's a 2 for 0. But now the Dragon is in here. Celaver the focus from sOAZ. They get that 1 kill back. Xaxus going to get stunned up. Not sure they've got the damage to deal with him. They need to get rid of Overpow and Vander, and that's exactly what they do. Both of those go down. Xaxus still at about a third of his HP. Barrels force him away, and Fnatic turn it around, come out 3-2 ahead of that one.
It all started so well for Roccat. They found a kill onto Rekkles. That was a good last breath, and even better wind wall from Overpow. He put the wall up, blocking the projectiles coming out of Fnatic. It actually blocked one of xPeke's barrels. The problem for Roccat is they kept chasing, and as they chased Fnatic down the lane, sOAZ was able to re-engage, come from the side, and when you've got sOAZ on Shyvana in dragon form with all of that armor, it is impossible to take him down. sOAZ has even grabbed himself now a Warmogs after that last back, after this last passage of play. He's had that Thornmail for quite a while, and again, there's just not enough armor penetration. Even with the last Whisper and a Brutalizer on the side of Roccat, it's not enough. Fnatic are on Baron now.
Yep. I'm going to see them kicking this one off, and who's the man around here for Roccat to stop it? It will be Jankos, but once again, YellOwStaR just poking him out again. Will leash him up, stun him out as well. Jankos has to back right away from this one. Baron already falling low.
Yeah, Baron's most likely going to be secured without contest here. Jankos doesn't have his flash. He wants to try and steal, but simply put, there's no way to get through that front line of Fnatic. So again, complete and utter objective control on the side of Fnatic. They've got themselves nearly a 10,000 gold lead out. Well, I call it 9,000. And all the Baron stats, now they need to siege. Now they just need to let the poke from Gragas and Karma do its work, and then grab the towers as Roccat are forced away.
You have to wonder if Roccat had not fallen quite so far behind leading into that last fight, would it have looked different for them? Quite possibly it would have. I mean, they did so very, very well at the start of things. Now, though, they're facing an even tougher struggle up against Fnatic, who won that fight in the end 3 for 2, have secured themselves that Baron. There's only one inner turret left up on the map right now, and that is down the bottom lane. We can see that Overpow is just pushing that wave out as far as he possibly can to make sure that Fnatic don't take that one easily.
Yeah, and Overpow's just going to keep doing that. It's the only option Roccat have available to them. But at this point in time, what Roccat needed to do was force those fights and force those engages much earlier on. You know, if you're in a composition where you've got this Renekton, Lee Sin, Yasuo at the sort of the 12 to 25 minute mark, you've got an advantage. The physical damage dealers, they don't necessarily need as many items to scale up and get those kills, and unfortunately, Roccat just took too long to find those moments. Now all of a sudden, Fnatic, they're grouped up in this mid lane, they've got Baron, you see sOAZ pushing in the top, and we'll have to see how long this siege lasts, because Roccat are doing a fairly good job at wave clearing, but it is quite risky.
Fnatic switching around from the mids to that top tower. Roccat going to try and react to this one as well as Xaxus going to stun sOAZ, but he just does not care right now. He is so ridiculously tanky, but there's a knock-up towards the back. Rekkles has to flash away, throws down the Cologne. Peke now on a rampage to get one. Xaxus is going to go down. Jankos will actually dash away. They pop the talisman, but this is going to be the first inhibitor, and Fnatic might not stop there.
Yeah, Fnatic have got so much damage, they can grab themselves another inhibitor. They don't have minions to necessarily get onto the Nexus turrets though, and we just seen in that situation a multi-man knockup on the side of Fnatic for Roccat, but unfortunately, because of the shield from Karma, plus Mikhail's, plus her shield, couldn't do anything, and Fnatic were just on a rampage.
Absolutely destroying Jankos, who came in there as a last-ditch attempt, the ace in the hole, trying to get it through onto YellOwStaR, but again, sOAZ, so very tanky, just takes that one for the team, doesn't hardly lose any health for it. That's 2 inhibitors down. As we mentioned, bottom lane was pushed by Yasuo earlier on in the game, so that's going to take Fnatic a while to push back, even if they even bother to push it back, to be honest. We've just seen that sOAZ can just walk straight under those towers and not really care.
Yeah, the way that Fnatic have been playing this game, though, it has been very defensive. You know, we haven't seen Fnatic pushing unless they're 100% confident that they're going to have an advantage. They've got themselves another dragon this game, and I expect Fnatic to shop, spend the money that they've earned over those last few plays and getting those towers, and then shove down the bottom lane. Wait until the super minions are in the base and then siege. So League of Legends basically textbook by the numbers, and I think Fnatic always felt that their team was going to scale better into the mid to late game, and they didn't take risks. They played fairly safe, and it's worked in their favor.
I think one problem we saw during that last fight, and even the one before that as well, the Overpow, they can set up these 2-man knockups that can get him in there for that ultimate, but he just gets destroyed straight away afterwards. He's blown to pieces. He's got no defensive items in there whatsoever to help him get in, but then maybe more importantly, stay around and do more damage to the rest of the team.
Yeah, and also remember, on 4.3, the shield from Yasuo's flow has also been taken a hit. It was 690 at max rank at level 18. Now it's only 470. They're going on sOAZ, but this is a lot.
Well, he's going to get bounced around here in Dragon form. We can see the control they've got in him. He puts down the Randuin. He's still walking away, and that was the entire Roccat team outside of Celaver taking down sOAZ. But in the meantime, Fnatic have used that extra time to just go in, take down the final inner turret. Vander then knocked around. We do see the knockup coming in, but the ulti was already used in that last takedown by Overpow. It's going to come up here quickly, and Fnatic looking like they will back away. They've got super minions pouring in the top side of the map, though.
Yeah, so a very good play from Vander actually prevented sOAZ from getting away in his Dragon's Descent. It allowed Roccat to pick up that kill. Unfortunately, it hasn't actually accumulated to anything else. Dragon's Rage is still available here for Jankos, so look for a knockback. Last Breath is up as well. Here comes Jankos from the side.
Is he going to be able to kick anyone in there? Overpow is getting ready for that one, and there is the knockup. Ace in the hole goes through as well. Cyanide going to be tracked down, but look at the hill towards Overpow. He almost loses his life. Fnatic do have to back away, but will they start to chase now? Gragas has full HP. Peke looking to get onto someone. YellOwStaR slows down Jankos. Well, have they got the speed to get in onto him and push this one down? The super minions are flowing through towards those Nexus turrets. Fnatic buying time for them to do the work on their own.
Yeah, xPeke has got explosive cast available again, and here comes Fnatic. Look for the big barrel from Peke to get them this tower. They don't even need it yet. Celaver will always be so brave going that far forward. He is at risk of being blown up.
Celaver's a target, and there is the combo from Fnatic. And it was so obvious. He steps one step too close to Peke, and he throws everything his way. They do get a knock-up onto YellOwStaR, though. Ulti comes in. YellOwStaR taking a while to go down from that one. The third and final inhibitor turret is now down. An open inhibitor stands. Let's have a look at the Nexus turrets here and see how much health they have got left from them with those super minions from before. You can see at the top one, down to less than half HP.
Yeah, Fnatic are going to just keep holding Roccat in place. They don't have the Baron buff any longer, but they don't necessarily need it. They've caught sOAZ again. There goes Rekkles to the Pally.
Not the dragon you're looking for here from this one. Jankos is going to kick Rekkles away from the team. The knockup comes through from Overpow, but they're going to destroy him here. Jankos now the next target. That will be another kill for Peke. The inhibitor will be finished up as Vander gets knocked back by the barrel. Finished up as well. Man drop will come in to help the team out, but that was an ace for Fnatic. And the game, a spectacular victory here over Roccat.
Fnatic come into this game with a game plan. They don't make any mistakes in the laning phase. Their patience pays off. We talked about how their composition was just going to handle those 5v5s better, and how they were better at sieging. And simply put, Fnatic just waits until they hit the power spike. Very well played by their pen. I just feel Roccat needs to go more aggressive earlier on.
You have to feel that that is the Fnatic that won 7 games in a row, not the Fnatic that were losing and had no real answer to whatever was thrown at them. They showed tremendous control, some amazing individual plays as well. I mean, look at Gragas, look at Peke, 11-2-3 by the end of that one, and we saw how dangerous he was. Celaver, one step too close to the steps, blown to pieces.
2 barrels just instantly deleted him from that inhibitor. And, you know, we